Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the U.S., and the highest rate of suicide is in middle-aged white men. That's according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. In 2020, 69% of Americans who died by suicide were white males. Thanks for joining us for this week's Health News You Can Use. I'm Lindsay Stish. This week, we're talking about why suicide rates are higher in this population and a special training St. Luke's provides the community on suicide prevention. With me today is Monty Miller, psychotherapist at St. Luke's Health System. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm really glad to be here today to talk about this topic.
So, Monty, first of all, do you have any insight onto why middle-aged white men are at higher risk for suicide attempts and completion?
Yes, we've done a lot of research in this, and one of it's really kind of culturally because men are not supposed to talk about these things, not talk about emotions. They're supposed to be able to tough it out. If they're having partner issues or legal issues, financial issues, work issues, we typically don't talk about those things. If we're feeling depressed or we're feeling anxious, we just keep it to ourselves. And so we just think we should be able to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and work our way through it.
So what are some myths or misconceptions about suicide?
There are a lot of myths out there, and I think we really need to clear that up as a society, or we won't face the issues that we have today with mental health and suicide, the suicide rate. One of them is that if I'm afraid to mention the word suicide because kind of like the power of suggestion that people might start then thinking about it. And the truth is they're already thinking about it and they desperately need someone to talk about it. So just bring it up. I know it's a hard topic. It's a sad topic and we don't like to talk about it, but we very much need to talk about it. There's also the myth that if someone's really intending on completing suicide, that there's no turning back. That is not true. Just talking to someone about it can turn the whole thing around. They may even see something on TV that all of a sudden changes their whole perspective. So it is not true that if they're really thinking about it and they're planning it, that they're really going to go through with it. Another one is that if people think that people are just trying to seek attention because they're talking about suicide or that they're made attempts, that is not true. The truth is that they're feeling hopeless, they're depressed, and they need help. Another myth that if they don't give warnings before suicide, that is really not true either. They will typically say something like, oh, my family's better off without me. Or, I'm no use here at this job anymore. I don't know what I'm doing in life anymore. My life insurance would be better for my family. Things like that. Those are statements that if we're not really aware that they are those kind of lethal statements, then we could miss it. So we need to be aware of those things.
So what are some signs to look for in an adult that may signal they're contemplating attempting suicide?
Well, one of it may be if they have a history of depression or anxiety or addictions. And if you know them well enough, if there's even that in the history in the family, if there's a suicide history in the family, that's also a red flag. Other things would be if you see people starting to isolate, starting to withdraw, starting not to enjoy the things they once enjoyed. Maybe if you see them starting to get their life in order in terms of cleaning out their house, making sure their dog will have a place to go with their pet or their cat, somewhere to go. If something happened to them, getting their will started and getting it all kind of finalized. Maybe if they decide to buy a gun all of a sudden and learn how to shoot it. If maybe they become super religious when they never were before, or maybe now they're not religious at all. So there are a lot of signs I think we can see if we're looking for them.
Okay. Now, when can someone recognize that they may need to get help?
Well, whenever it's really kind of affecting their everyday functioning, when they're really not able to hardly go to work, or they're going to work and they're not working to the same capacity, or maybe they've had to quit work, or maybe they're just truly isolating more and they're not leaving the house very often. Maybe they're not talking to their family and friends and they're not sharing. Maybe their eating patterns have changed, sleeping patterns have changed. This is really starting to affect their everyday functioning.
Okay. So St. Luke's behavioral health specialists have a special training on suicide prevention for the community called QPR. Can you explain what that is and how this benefits the community?
Yes, QPR is a great training program. There's a couple of us in the behavioral health department that is certified to be trainers and facilitators. And we have worked with some companies in the area and brought this training to the company, to their staff, so they can all be aware. And what it stands for is questioning, persuading, and referring. And it's kind of like CPR for people who need CPR. This is QPR for those who need to kind of have a new breath of life into them regarding their mental health. A way to work through mental health, a way to understand there is help for mental health. And so with QPR, we teach people how to ask the right questions. We teach them how to persuade people to get help and to talk about it. And then we refer.
Okay. So what other resources does St. Luke's offer for those who are struggling with mental health?
Well, we have our outpatient behavioral health services. We also have the Employees Assistance Program for those who belong to the St. Luke's family and community. We also have the Smithville Inpatient and Residential Community for Mental Health, and we have Crittenton for adolescents and for children.
Okay, great. So what's your final message for people today?
Is get out there and give people hope. People need hope. Right now, we have been struggling with COVID and isolating for too many months and years. And now we have inflation and we have a lot of things going on in the world today. People who are thinking about suicide are feeling hopeless. And they feel depressed. And they're in this deep hole that they feel like nobody understands what they're going through. So get out there and talk to people. Get out there and offer hope and offer ways to help support them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Monty.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
To find out more about St. Luke's behavioral health, including free webinars on dealing with stress, anxiety, and more, visit stlukeskc.org/behavioral. You can also stay up to date with all the latest health news and stories from St. Luke's at stlukeskc.org/news. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Health News You Can Use.